Amin has top 5 things he doesn't want to be doing if the zombie apocalypse arrives. Things that he doesn't want at that moment to be participating in. We'll get to that in a second. But I just wanted to clarify something from yesterday because I hit it in passing as we were talking about Tom Brady and Tom Brady's retirement. And it got aggregated because I was amazed that Craig Carton has a television show again after going to prison for fraud, and amazed. And I used the word enraged, and I didn't specify that it's not at him. It's just how awful this industry is that somebody with that on their resume could get another job, and good jobs like that, when I suspect that anybody who didn't look like him wouldn't have that second opportunity afforded to them. So it was more about the industry than it was about him, because I tend to be pretty understanding with addiction, with weakness, even if it leads you to desperation and fraud. But the idea that that resume would make its way back up in the industry, that's something that can only happen for a white man.
Hold on a second. I don't even remember you saying that. That got aggregated?
Yes.
Yeah. He mentioned it in passing, and then it got aggregated as Dan LeBatard enraged.
Hitting low-hanging fruit. And
wow.
And it's not even like, what do you mean low-hanging fruit? He was in prison. For fraud. Like, you don't have to
I didn't know that, though, by the way. Now I'm learning. I'm reading the awful notes.
No, this was a big story.
Well, not only that, though. See, this is the thing. Not only that, his comeback included an HBO documentary that he clearly had creative control over, because they didn't actually do the stuff that was hard about how dirty the crime and the addiction to gambling were.
Now you're enraged, though.
Yeah, now I can feel the rage.
Written the story to. Now
they were
you're
ahead of
doubling
time.
down.
Yeah.
But is it directed at him or the industry? Let's rummage around in because I don't do outrage very much.
You're outraged right now.
The idea
There's
also like the very specific New York radio criticize everyone kind of style that Craig Carton brings to his particular stylings, which is somewhat of contrast to the work that we do here on this program.
Truly, this is the first time I'm learning this man exists.
Really?
Yes.
That should get aggregated by awful
there you
announcing.
go.
Jessica Smetana, Ireland, I don't know this man exists.
I think we can do
Is he on Twitter? TikTok?
very large
Doing dances.
segments where we teach Amin about baseball, very rudimentary things, and we teach Tony and Jessica and Chris Whittingham about celebrities that they should know or stories that they should know.
Yes.
But Craig Carton would not be one of them because Craig Carton isn't like some ancient person. But the idea that he's rejuvenated his career and a lot of people don't even know what it is that you're talking about, when that's a prime media role. He's gotten a couple of really prime media real estate roles after emerging from prison.
Has he talked about it at all?
On the documentary, he talked about it. And I don't know whether he does so on his shows or not, but I found that documentary to not be very transparent.
If I were him, I would have all my segments in the show have like prison references, right? It's time to hit the commissary, boys.
See, Dan, I told you the commissary connotes prison, and you want us to be out in a commissary just commiserating with each other.
Commissary is always prison. I don't associate it with prison.
I'm gonna put stuff on my books.
Is commissary only prison?
Ask Craig Carton.
No, movie studios have commissaries.
Nah.
No, they have cafeterias.
They have commissary.
No,
Warner Brothers has or had a commissary.
Not anymore. Not after the prison.
Is there a number at which you arrive at a commissary if you're feeding the commissary is larger than the others because you're feeding hundreds and hundreds of people? Is that why it's a commissary?
I don't know.
No, it's the setting, right? Because in the military, it's a mess hall, right?
I will say, I just pulled up the definition of commissary, and it says a restaurant and a movie studio, military base, prison, or other institution. So it's institutions.
So is this an institution?
We are kind of a movie studio. Mike Schur works here. Adam McKay.
We've made a movie.
Well, that's just, okay, and we're a studio.
Thus
there you go.
Makes it a movie studio.
More of a documentary, really.
Well, aren't they the same?
Documentary is a subgenre of movie. So.
We didn't really do it. We didn't really do it here, though.
Our own accomplishments.
No, it's not. We didn't really do it here, right? We did it somewhere else.
It's still our company.
Yeah, but it's not here, though.
We're the studio.
What does that mean?
And it's a movie. We made it.
Yeah, it's
This
on
is a
Amazon
movie
Prime.
studio.
Good Neighbors, streaming now.
Good Rivals,
Good
actually.
Rivals, excuse me. That was the old title of the movie.
It was supposed to be.
Yeah, that was the old title of the
supposed to be
movie.
Good Neighbors. It
Before-
should have been Good Neighbors.
Before State Farm dropped that as a title sponsor. I can't wait for my documentary to get made so I can walk around and say I'm a movie producer. And then I'm going to wear a scarf everywhere and drive one of those like old convertibles.
Your character's name could be Hollywood Beckons. You could just create some stupid character.
I want those tuxedos with the white scarf. You know what I'm talking about?
Did you just make up that name?
Hollywood Beckons.
Yeah, like
Holy
Beckons,
shit.
Really funny.
Beckins, and you wear a scarf, and you're like, you've gone to Hollywood on us, but you're actually just the dirty drunk basketball troll.
No.
Whoa. That should be the name of a character that Jamie Foxx plays in a movie.
Hollywood Beckons.
Hollywood Beckons.
I want those little goggles they wear when they drive in their convertible.
You got to have gloves, right, to work to drive?
Driving
gloves, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, can't wait to show up to work like that the next
It's
day.
a good character.
Yeah. Hollywood Beckons.
What's the movie project that's going to get you there?
I
Amin?
could put you in the pictures.
Oh, you're gonna go old school?
I got to.
You're gonna go.
My name's Hollywood Beckons. That's not a modern person.
I love every time Martin Scorsese calls a movie a picture. It just delights me.
What is number 5 on your list
Well,
of top 5 places or things?
Things I hope. I hope the zombie apocalypse doesn't happen while I'm. Things.
Sort of match gamey.
Right.
On the toilet type situation.
Do you have the match game sound? Were we able to take that away from ESPN, even though it's not our sound? It's the match game sound.
I'm on it.
All right. So top things I hope the zombie apocalypse doesn't happen while I'm doing. Right. OLI. Dodging a bill collector. By the way, I should mention, before I get into this, this is assuming that I intend to survive the zombie apocalypse. I have famously said many a times, when the zombie apocalypse happens, just bite me.
Yeah, you just want to go on the first day.
I don't want to live through whatever comes next. But if I had to, right, then these are the things I hope to God isn't happening when the zombie apocalypse
You have
happens.
famously said you don't want to live through the apocalypse.
Famously.
Just if so, so just get me right. Make me first.
Yes.
I'm fine
Just
being
get
the,
me out of the way.
okay.
Get me out of the way.
I feel similarly when I watch zombie apocalypse or any sort of like post-apocalyptic movie. I'm like, just let me.
Sucks.
I don't want to be bartering penicillin on like year 30 of the apocalypse. I've seen all my friends and family die. I'm a survivor now. Like,
I can't
is it really
trust
a life worth
anybody.
living?
Is this person going to try and eat me? Like,
You know you're gonna die at some point too. You're not gonna be the hero.
No, and it's going to be a gruesome death. But assuming that I have to in this hypothetical, then OLI dodging a bill collector.
But what does this mean? The dodging? Nobody answers their phone anymore. It's like pretty easy these days to dodge a bill collector.
I'm just saying I don't want to be like kind of like stressed about a bill.
There can't be in-person bill collectors anymore.
No,
can
like
they?
a process
I don't even
server?
know. Like,
Yeah.
is like Seth Rogen's character and Knocked Up,
Not knocked up. He
whatever
was,
film it is.
But what do you mean bill collector? Like what is this? Okay,
Pineapple
let's move on to number 4. I don't know.
I'm with this is OLI though.
So this is what's happening. I get that 800 number that I know is a bill collector. I'm stressed. I owe them $17,000. I can't make a payment right now. Like I don't want that to be happening. And then zombies attack. Like come on, man.
Will you be relieved when you die though? Like, oh shit, I don't have to pay off all my debt.
But I can't die in this scenario. I have to survive. So
okay.
In this
Okay,
scenario,
okay.
And you
In
don't.
these top- in these-
But you also, what you're saying is that you do not want to just have that feeling on you of I owe somebody something.
No, not that I owe somebody something. It's that I am in the middle of stressing about owing money, and then that's when the zombie apocalypse has just started. Like I want to kind of be free conscious going into this. I don't want to be worried about something else, and now I got to transfer my worry over. That's just
The
too
list
much.
has started terribly.
Oh, but that's OLI though, so you got to. Number 5.
Oh, nice. Okay, now we're doing it.
Misty says, I'm terrified that the zombie apocalypse could be coming. I surely don't want to be blanking while it happens.
Yes. Yes. There you go. Good job.
I don't think it's going to work though because Amin's not going to have a perfect phrase to put in there.
Oh, I will say it again.
Misty says, the zombie apocalypse could be happening soon. I surely don't want to be blanking while it happens.
You need the phallic microphone for that.
Watching a bad movie for cinephobe.
Working, in other words.
Not working, because if it's a good movie for cinephobe, like a cinephobe movie that is eligible but is enjoyable, that's fine. But I was watching Speed 2 the other day, and it's just so...
Cruise Control?
Oh, my God, man.
A classic.
You don't want to die listening to Robert Langdon mansplain something to the female lead in Angels and Demons.
Like, that would be the worst. That would be the absolute worst. Sitting around, just looking at this ridiculous Dan Brown character.
Chris Cody, you are here for Speed 2?
I mean, it's just one of those, like, it's not good, but I enjoy watching it. I love cruises.
No.
Like, I mean, I know that it's a terrifying cruise movie, but
It's not terrifying at all.
Richard Dawson, what do you think?
Number 4. Getting my ass beat.
Yeah, I mean, that would be bad.
Just,
Yes.
you're like someone just getting curb stomped, and then the zombie apocalypse happens.
You're looking out of the corner of your eye, you're on the
dude.
floor, you're getting dragged, and you're like, is that a zombie over there?
like, and they're not going to believe me because they're kicking my ass, right? They're just going to keep doing it.
Number 3.
Number 3, having sex. I don't want to be naked when the zombie apocalypse happens. I don't want to be running around like, like, let me get some clothes on first. Hold on. Like,
I mean, it's if you're going to go,
no,
it's
but
not dodging
again,
a bill collector. It's not.
Dan, in this scenario, I have to survive. This isn't me just like, well, I'm one of them days. It's not one of that. It's like, I've got to survive. So running around, like trying to get my underwear on. Because remember, it's not just, escaping the zombies. I'm going to run into other people at some point. It's like, why are you naked? Well, it's a long story.
You strike me as a shirt-on guy.
oh wow,
Whoa.
And never nude.
That's not never nude. That's
Like a reverse never nude. Upside down never nude.
that's insecurity.
That is a,
That is
Winnie the Pooh.
damning accusation, though, Jessica.
you can't say
What
much
is
worse
that?
about somebody.
I could answer that question, but it's going to be way...
Don't.
Like,
They made me
Don't,
say it.
don't,
Let's just move on.
don't. Yes, uncomfortably.
Number 2, Roy called it. Taking a shit.
Did he call it?
Yeah, he said you don't want to be on the toilet.
Yeah.
That's
$250
Roy-
answer.
Roy ruined the top 5 list.
I apologize,
before he started
Charles Nelson
by naming
Raleigh
the
over
obvious one.
But here's why. Because again, first of all, the nakedness, right? Second of all, this list came to me while I was taking a shit. I was like, oh my God, this would be the worst time for a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
to hit.
Roy
Can't wipe
right
yourself.
now has twice mentioned names that I'm guessing the entire room does not know. He mentioned Charles Nelson Riley. No way that you guys know
Oh, that
who
delighted me.
Yeah,
Are you
man.
kidding?
no clue.
Who is that? Who didn't watch Game Show Network when they were 13 years old? No, just me. Okay.
Is that the guy that would kiss all the?
no,
No,
that's Richard
that's
Dawson.
Richard
That's
Dawson.
Richard Dawson. Yeah.
That was always weird.
What do you mention him?
Who is the lady with the big glasses?
Brett?
Yeah, Brett. Is it Brett
I forget-
Summers?
Yeah, Brett Summers. Yeah.
Oh,
Roy,
man,
how old
delightful.
are you?
I know things.
Ageless. He's ageless.
Charles Nelson Riley.
Roy has always existed.
Number 1
He's like one of the Ents in Lord of the Rings.
has put it on the poll, Juju, please. Has Roy always existed?
Number 1.
That is his age. It's what his age.
He's actually
should be.
830 years
It's
old.
what
He's
his-
literally
I'm older
seen-
than Patino.
You've seen every single movie that has ever come out prior to the year that Claire was born, I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
your catalog on celebrity goes back in. Charles Nelson Riley is 70s.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
But they
50
used
years ago.
I remember when we
Well, you were
first got
born.
DirecTV, we first got HDTV. It was a wonder to flip through the channels. And I used to watch Game Show Network all the time. I discovered what Match Game was because I used to watch what's the name of the host of the show? Gene Rayburn and his phallic microphone.
It's a great.
introduce
It's a
fun
great.
questions.
The game show that is the game show golden era. Are we still doing that well?
Game shows?
Game shows are back, Jack.
Steve Harvey.
Game shows
Elizabeth
are having
Banks.
a moment. I saw there's an hour of lingo on
I don't think that was
ABC.
always-
I just
anymore.
discovered that lingo is basically Wordle.
It's Wordle, yeah.
And so Wordle just ripped off lingo and mass
not ri-
produced
I
it.
mean-
I mean, it's exactly Wordle.
Guess a 5-letter word is not exactly an original concept, but yeah.
Wheel of Fortune is just Hangman.
Yeah.
Is it?
That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Isn't it?
And
We
it's
got
still,
tic-tac-toe
it's
this
still in the
weekend.
game.
Hollywood Squares is tic-tac-toe.
Yeah.
But what is the last big one of these to make to land?
I'd
Whether
say probably Celebrity Family Feud has really landed in a big way. Like that's a
No, but that's
it's
not
more of
new.
a spin-off,
You're talking
though,
about a
right?
new
No,
show.
well, a
right?
new show.
I'll stop on Family Feud every time just to watch for a minute. There's something hypnotizing about it. Jessica's offended by Celebrity Jeopardy. Celebrity Jeopardy she can't abide that.
It's too fucking easy. Give me a break.
They're celebrities.
So are they stupid too?
Yes, they're celebrities.
There's like this basketball player joined the Golden State Warriors after their 2016 championship run.
What is Babe
And then
Ruth?
they show a picture,
Who's
and
Kevin
I'm
Durant?
like, it's
no, it really is. Like Celebrity Jeopardy is to make people at home feel smart.
Yeah.
And also, they're raising the money for charity.
yeah.
No,
I-
That too, yeah.
No, but like, can we play like a reasonable facsimile of the
What,
game?
you want them to donate $7 to charity?
But, I mean, do we think that all celebrities are stupid?
Apparently they are.
Yeah, it's so it's patronizing.
This is the thing. So there's like multiple rounds. It's a tournament. The
Yeah,
first
they're
round,
hour-long,
sure,
too.
yes, sure. Make the first few rounds easy.
Sure.
Weed out the stupid people. But once we get to the championship, and I'm watching Michael Cera, Brendan Hunt, and Patton Oswalt, ask them the hard-hitting questions.
No.
Every single question I got right.
Gone too far.
That should not happen.
You just want them to be funny. Let them be their funny selves, and that's all it's about. Raise some money for
at
charity.
least one 18th century
Guys,
literature
I
category. Please.
haven't finished my list, by the way. Number one.
Hold on a second.
I think to answer your question on the last
hate
game show
winning.
that hit would be Who Wants to Be
Who wants to be a millionaire? Yeah.
That's the last one. How
That's
long
the
ago
last
That may
was
have been
that?
the last one, unless
Like
you include
original.
like
Which
Wipeout or
was,
something.
Which was originally a British game show too.
Wasn't
Yeah.
there one with Wasn't there one with suitcases and Howie Mandel after
Oh
that?
yeah,
Deal or No
Deal,
Deal.
Deal or
No
No
Deal.
Deal
Yeah.
definitely came after.
What about
1
the,
versus 100 with, I think Saget was the.
what about the
host of that.
chase? Remember the chase?
The chase. Yeah.
Weakest link.
Weakest link.
Remember, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Oh, that
Great
one
one.
was.
Also known as Celebrity Jeopardy.
Oh, Jesus.
Number one.
The number one thing I hope I'm not doing when the zombie apocalypse happens. Saying there's no such thing as zombies.
You just don't want to be wrong at the
I
end.
just like run. I just
Wrong
imagine
one last time.
running for my life and like, you stupid son of a bitch.
Just hating yourself at
Yeah.
the end.
That's the whole-
The last thing that you're doing is self-loathing. You
I love that.
asshole.
It's also like the half-hearted jog that you see in the movie. It's like, God damn, not like sprinting. Just like, no, come on, man.
You would rather be mid shit than be proven wrong. Yeah, okay. Got it.
A rabid Amin just spit at the television camera for some reason. An acidic, we get it, Eric Stonestreet. You're from Kansas City, and it's the time of year that you go on every show to tell us that you love barbecue in Kansas City.
Find another bit.
I feel like we had him
We
before it
did?
was popular to have him.
I
Now he
mean,
goes everywhere.
No, he
Eric
was.
Stonestreet was on Modern Family at the time. He
No,
wasn't
no,
exactly
I'm not,
anonymous.
I'm not saying we made him. I'm saying
Yeah.
it, but like we
Yes.
had him on talking about Chiefs before everyone was having him on talking
No,
about Chiefs.
Cody. No. Witty's right. Like Eric Stonestreet was this hard.
I didn't mean we created
No,
Eric
no.
Stonestreet.
He's Witty's right.
Mom
Yo,
did.
he was homeless, and we basically said, you know what, man? But you love your Kansas City things, so come on our show and talk about it. And then someone watching our show was like, you know what he'd be good for? A TV series.
This Stonestreet fella's got
Yeah.
something about him.
He's got.
He's gonna be
it.
in the pictures.
This is not what Cody
Hollywood-
Cody is alleging.
Hollywood Beckons.
Cody is alleging that you are now tired of Eric Stonestreet as a Chiefs fan, but he's saying we brought you earlier than most, Eric Stonestreet joining the show to be a Chiefs fan.
I disagree. He was at the same time he was coming on here. He was going on Patrick. I don't know if you guys know this.
Well, I disagree with you.
Dan.
I love that as a debate show.
You lose.
That sounds like the parody debate show from 30 Rock.
Well, I just them saying they disagree
I
and
think it
not,
was like the bit was like Tracy Jordan as Stephen A. Smith, and he was just like, "No, I disagree with you."
did any of you guys enjoy?
Tracy Morgan?
His character
His
on the
character's
show
name.
was Tracy Jordan.
Oh. I need to rewatch that show.
Delightful.
Never watched it.
Dangerously close to a fine.
You would like it.
I don't know. Network television just doesn't do it for me.
It was network television looking at network television.
We have Mike Schur on every day. His most popular shows are on network television. They're quite good.
Let's not mention that when he's around.
You are that kind of a snob. You right now will not watch any network television. You look down on all. You have arrived at total snobbery.
The last network television show that I watched, Seinfeld, probably.
What?
Yeah.
You didn't watch like Lost?
Never watched Lost. Never watched a second of Lost.
The Office?
Never watched The Office. I watched the British version of The Office, and then when I tried to watch the American Office, it just wasn't that, and I couldn't. And like, did Mike explain this here, where he was talking about early on they try to make Steve Carell's character like David Brent, like Ricky Gervais' character.
The pilot is like a beat for beat reshot of the British Office, isn't it?
And then they realized at some point, no, he has to be more sympathetic, and that's what made the show blow up, as opposed to it would have been maybe canceled very early on. I find this is funny because we were talking about Parks and Rec the other day, and that scene where they're Leslie Knope is accepting the award, and I walked away thinking to myself, wow, man, I actually am way more interested in the conversation on how you came and arrived at that bit than I am with the bit itself. I was more enthralled with that than I was watching the actual scene.
I actually, like, having watched The Good Place, which is one of my 5 favorite shows ever. The Good Place is incredible. I kind of admire that, and I'm not just saying this because he's a colleague of ours and we talk to him every day, but like the constraints of working within network television and still being able to pull off a great show is kind of remarkable. That like The Office, Parks and Rec, and The Good Place are all damn funny shows from a place of you can't curse, you can't do subject matter that's that risque. I actually kind of find it a more difficult barrier to entry to try and make a good network television show.
Absolutely.
You'd be shocked to learn that the ratings of some network shows that none of us have ever watched are up there with some sports shows. I looked up the top 5 network TV shows of the last year.
Chicago Blue, Chicago Red,
Chicago Fire, Blue Bloods, FBI, NCIS, and Yellowstone is the
What do they
number
average?
Well, Yellowstone was 11.31 million.
Yellowstone is the most popular show in America, is it not?
Yes.
But does that count? Because it's like prestige television on a network. Like, it's not the typical network formula, right?
I've never watched it, so I don't know. It's network.
What I think this tells you, I think what this tells you is that most people are still not consuming the way Amin is, from the snobbery of I'm not watching on commercials, I'm streaming, I'm making my own menu at every turn, and I want it without, you don't need to clean it up for me. You don't need to make it network palatable for me. The grand majority of Americans are still watching the old way, not that way.
Absolutely. Everything we're talking about when we talk about cord cutting, when we talk about the shifting dynamics, all of that we're still talking about the future. The curve still hasn't hit the part.
I think we're nearing 50-50.
Sure.
But like the difference is I mean, we're mostly talking about age here.
Yes.
50 people who are 50 or older watch CBS shows and they still consume television in the way that they always did. But I think people younger than 50 are watching shows on streaming, but the consensus, like there's so many more options that you will not see the consensus of 9.7 million people watching a show like The Last of Us, which is the show that all the people that, you know, are into shows and like are you know, will spread things via word of mouth. They'll tell you about The Last of Us. Most, like, not everyone who streams has agreed, let's all watch this one thing. And that's the difference between television now and television then.
Fragmented. Everyone's fragmented.
Network TV's free too, so obviously more people will watch it.
Can you get for me the sound that Roy requested? I don't want to leave today without going back to the just terrible judgment.
Terrible judgment?
Roy's judgment today has been terrible. It began with smiling throughout David Sampson telling you about his pain. Oh, you forgot about that, didn't you?
Grinning maniacally.
Yeah,
like not just grinning.
Just happy. That legitimately can't stop laughing, as happy as any of us have ever seen you. At the fact
still
that
laughing.
David
Doing it
Sampson
again.
I'm smiling again.
I don't like this character.
David Sampson
Terrifying.
David Sampson can't taste or smell. It delights Roy. It is the strangest thing. And then Roy
Still
says,
smiling.
yeah, still smiling.
I can't stop.
We have created the apocalyptic scenario where all of us have arrived one day here at work and Stugotz has stolen everything. Nothing works here anymore, but you were granted by a genie, Frankie, our security guy, the wish of going back and getting one thing.
And this is what Roy said.
I love the visual of Frankie being a genie.
But Frankie grants you the wish of you can go back and get one thing in all the history in this building that's falling apart at the Clevelander, everything that we built at Meadowlark Media. And what is the one thing Roy would go, Roy would go back in and get?
Run into the end zone, listen to Sperano's roar. Balls underthrown, begging you to catch and go. Hard line to the end zone. Right into the end zone.
This is so painfully bad.
That's why
Why
it's so
would you
great.
want to keep this?
That's why it's so great.
Heading for a touchdown, never gonna happen.
There's more.
What's
Got
even?
you fumbling, what a wreck.
Unintelligible.
And you for defense.
Let the man sing.
Hard line to the end zone.
Brian Hartline,
Right into
former
the
Dolphins receiver.
end zone.
He's now like the best
that the-
receivers
was-
coach in the country.
Was that the 1-15 Dolphins team?
No,
Yeah.
because there was a Sperano.
Oh, no,
Hold on,
Ken
finale.
Rio was
There's
one
been a-
again.
Finale here.
There's more.
Everyone seems to be sold. You know what's coming in the end. We want Andrew Luck, so let's fold.
All right. But that's
The
what
guy,
Roy's
the guy
keeping.
responsible for Jackson Smith and Jigba. This is him.
So this is what I love. Several things. One, beyond being completely off rhythm, what I love is the idea that in my mind's eye, Meadowlark Media is a burning building, right?
It's Chernobyl.
And no, it's like it's a burning building, and everyone's outside on the lawn looking at this. And Roy says, "Wait!" And he runs inside, like, "Roy, what are you doing?" And things are collapsing, and
I've
beams
got
are
a
collapsing.
flash drive!
I have to
What?
go! And then
Flash drive!
Roy comes out, and he's got something swaddled.
Swaddled,
And
yeah.
there's smoke coming off him, and the firefighters are putting a blanket on Roy. What are you doing? And then he reveals what he went to save, and it was that song.
Hotlines in the end zone.
Run into the end zone, listen to Sperano's roar. Balls underthrown, begging you to catch and go.
How is it possible?
The end zone.
Wait, just the opening line is probably the funniest thing I've ever heard. Play just the opening part again.
Run into the end zone, listen to Sperano's roar.
Listen to Sperano.
The late
Balls
Tony
underthrown,
Sperano.
begging you to catch and go.
Roy, I cannot
Rest in
believe.
power.
Hard line to the
End
end zone.
zone.
Right into the end zone.
He's so shy.
Eddie, I'm glad we're getting a chance to talk to you here. You've got on February 4th, that's this Saturday, Undisputed World Super Featherweight Championship, Madison Square Gardens, Hulu Theater, New York City, live worldwide, exclusively on DAZN. You know the fighting game. You know how to talk about the fighting game, so I don't want to talk about your fight. I want to talk to you about what's going on with fighter pay in the UFC and how you see that as someone who's a promoter and you know the cutthroat business, how the fighting business, how awful it can be to the fighters. You make what of what's happening in the UFC?
I think firstly, the UFC is a fantastic business. I think also it provides incredible opportunity for fighters. Every young aspiring MMA fighter wants to be a part of the UFC, and that's because of the credibility that the brand has built. There are a lot of benefits through being with the UFC and signing that contract. I think what we're seeing now is the bigger issue of when a fighter becomes not bigger than the brand, but certainly to a point where they're driving significant pay-per-view, they're selling out arenas, and then they want to start to take control of their own career in terms of the revenue that they generate. And the boxing model for a long time has allowed fighters of that size, of that magnitude, to own the revenue around their fights. If you look at Anthony Joshua, if you look at Canelo Alvarez and a lot of our top fighters, ultimately, they own the show. We work for them. We're really providing a service to the fighter who owns the revenue from the show. And I think you look at people like perhaps Francis Ngannou and probably Conor McGregor in the past, fighters that maybe become bigger than the UFC contract. And I think the pressure that is on them now as a business is probably going to change that contract. But for me, it really becomes when a fighter becomes a superstar through the UFC. I think they almost outgrow that initial contract.
Well, the business model, because it's not unionized, the fighters get a very low percentage of the cut, a very low percentage of the value of the company. So what's Ngannou worth when he leaves? When you're Dana White and you go 2 years, you run off your heavyweight champion because you don't want to pay him, and then you say he doesn't want to fight when that's the guy everybody wants to watch fight. What's he worth?
I think really then you have to make a decision as a business. In boxing, there are a huge number of fighters that are overpaid in terms of their commercial value. Now, we talk about the dangers of the sport. It's very difficult to say a fighter is ever overpaid, but the reality is that many are in relation to the revenue driven around their fight. As a business in the UFC, when you have a decision to make like Francis Ngannou, you almost have to break down the barriers of what you're doing, which is that central contract. It's a dangerous move because you start opening the door to restructuring it for stars. And I think over time, it's probably something they're going to have to do. If you're Francis Ngannou, who has very cleverly kind of, found his way to become a free agent, he's now in a fantastic position. He sits there with an opportunity to move into the boxing world, really controlling his own destiny, doing his own deals, not having to tie himself necessarily to a promotional company, to a broadcaster. He can sit independently, almost field offers from different promoters around different fights, and he's going to make a lot of money.
Okay, but what's he worth? You know these things. Things.
The answer, what's he worth, is what's someone prepared to pay? That's the better question. And I think that when you look around the likes of an Anthony Joshua fight, which is something that we could obviously look at with him, a Tyson Fury fight. I mean, they're the two big fights for him in boxing. And they're going to generate him considerably more money than he could have made, probably subject to, what I've heard, probably the same as you, the numbers that were offered him through his UFC contract. So honestly, the number, I don't know. Depends what the site fee is, depends what the pay-per-view revenue is. But certainly he will be in a position now to see that in black and white and make sure that the revenue received for the show goes to Francis Ngannou.
The number that's been reported is 3 fights, 1 Stipe, 2 John Jones, $8 million. That's underpaid for what those fights would be. He wanted his freedom. He refused to fight those fights. What's that worth?
What's what worth? Those fights?
Those 3 fights, Ngannou, what are those worth if you had to pay fair market value for those fights?
Well, I mean, Dan, it all depends on the revenue through the pay-per-view of a UFC deal. I don't know. I'm telling you, if you're going to sell out an arena for that fight, you're going to be selling out at around probably a $5 to $8 million gate. You're going to be generating, I don't know, 300,000-400,000 pay-per-view buys at $69 a pop, split with a broadcaster. There's the international sponsorship. UFC is not my game. I know the boxing game like the back of my hand. I could tell you what a fight generates. And I know that a fight with Anthony Joshua against Francis Ngannou would generate well in excess of 1.5 million pay-per-view buys in the UK, would probably generate 500,000 plus pay-per-view buys in the US. Would it come with a huge site fee? Probably from the Middle East as well. And I will sit down with Anthony Joshua after his fight on April 1st and see if he wants to fight Francis Ngannou, because Anthony's mindset is to become world heavyweight champion again. So it's a big sort of diversion in the road, but also it's a fight he believes he would win, obviously, and also would generate a significant amount of money. So it's not something that I've sat down with Anthony and looked at. But, in terms of what fights generate, it's not difficult to work that out, in all honesty. But what your point earlier, Dan, was fact. The margins are different. When you're talking about revenue versus fighter pay, perhaps in the UFC, that model is closer to 70-30 or 80-20. It's skewed to UFC. Boxing's actually the reverse, right? So the fighters would normally generate and take home the 80% of the revenue pot, where the promoters would get 20%. So obviously in many ways, I'm envious of the UFC model.
Yeah,
but in boxing, that changed a long time ago.
It's a great business model if you can abuse the young guys because they're not worth very much, pay them very little, and build stars that you don't then fight because they're too big for your brand and they want too many freedoms. But Ngannou, Tyson Fury, Ngannou, Anthony Joshua, those things will probably happen and be giant fights, right? I saw that Tyson Fury wants to fight Ngannou probably because he wants to take him from Anthony Joshua.
Yeah. Well, like I say, there's only 2 fights for Ngannou that generate that kind of money. And that's Tyson Fury and that's Anthony Joshua. Maybe Deontay Wilder, but not of the same level as the first 2. So, it looks like Tyson Fury will fight Usyk maybe in April or May. AJ will fight April the 1st. And, like I said, for AJ, he's not looking at a Francis Ngannou fight. He's looking at trying to become world heavyweight champion again. But it's not to say that we wouldn't be interested in discussing that fight because, like I said, it's going to generate a lot of money.
If I say to you, fighters in the game worth the most right now, mixed martial arts and boxing, how many names are you saying before you say Jake Paul?
Boxing, I'm saying Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. Gervonta Davis. And then, I think that sometimes the money and the numbers reported on fighter pay is not quite correct, and it's certainly overinflated. But Jake Paul's doing great things for boxing. He's driving numbers, and I remove him now from the world of YouTube. I honestly do. You've got YouTube boxing, which is really an entertainment format, and then you've got Jake Paul. And Jake Paul isn't, for me, really YouTube boxing. I feel like he's doing training camps. Now he's fighting a real fighter, not a very good one, but still an undefeated professional fighter. So I feel like you have to give him his respect. He's driving numbers, he's driving interest, and I think he's doing a good job.
Eddie, on top of your boxing promotions, you are the chairman of the Professional Darts Corporation. What's a more entertaining event to attend, a prize fight or a classic darts match?
Well, I've got to say, the darts business is incredible. We're seeing in the UK and around the world, darts is outperforming the rating numbers from boxing by 2 and sometimes 3 to 1. We joked with Ariel Helwani recently. He became a lover of darts during the World Championship. We actually have a US darts event at Madison Square Garden in June. We did it last June. This will blow your mind. Go onto YouTube, search 9 dart finishes through the PDC, which is a Professional Darts Corporation, which is our business. This will blow your mind. The atmosphere is incredible. They are working class heroes that are making millions of dollars to play darts every week around the world as part of a global schedule. It is unbelievable. But for me,
look how happy he is. You're happier there. I've asked you 9 minutes of business and finance questions.
You know why, Dan? Because people say thank you, right? And it's like you go into a sporting world where everyone's smiling, right? Everyone can't believe it. This guy used to work on a building site. 2 years later, he's throwing darts around the world, making $5 million, right? And then you go into boxing and you're dealing with, lawyers, managers, like crooks, like whatever, I don't know, and it's like boxing is the most beautiful sport, but the worst business.
Wait a minute, you're one of the managers. You're
No, I'm not. I'm a promoter. We've got a business that spans 40 years. We like to work on a word called integrity, which is a word that is virtually invisible in the fight game.
Okay, explain. I don't know. You have so many good stories, but can you explain to Amin Al-Hassan, a front office guy, that your best, God almighty, this is a dirty business story. God almighty, boxing is the sewer for business. I hate that I make my living in this cesspool filled with rats, leeches, and con men.
I think the best way to describe it is there is no barriers to enter in terms of the boxing business, right? So this afternoon, you two sitting there in your studio could go, do you know what? Let's become boxing managers, right? Next thing, you're in my office and you're telling me that this fighter's worth $20 million a fight. I've seen his pay-per-view numbers. I've seen the numbers that he generates at the gate. But you two are sitting there with no knowledge of the numbers telling me. And next thing, we're rolling around on the floor. I've whacked Dan. You've jumped me from behind. It's a real mess. That won't happen. But you understand what I'm saying? Fighters get advised literally by people who they've bumped into in Chick-fil-A, right? And you get to people even at the level of like Spence v. Crawford, right? I'm worth this. Why? You've never done a pay-per-view that's generated more than X. No, but this fight, I'm telling you now, this fight will do 1 million buys. Really? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, you can own the pay-per-view. Oh, no, I don't want to own the pay-per-view. I want a guarantee. No, but you just told me it'll do 1 million buys. Oh, well, yeah. Oh, you know. So like, this is the problem. I mean, on one hand, the structure of the UFC contract, I know there's a lot of debate in that world about what's right and what's fair and what's not, but at least the structure has a structure. You know, in boxing, you're renegotiating every fight. It's minimum purses. It's opponents to be mutually agreed. I sit there, I'm so envious of Dana White. Sometimes he sits there and goes, morning, you are fighting you, and I'll see you at the weekend. Bye.
Yes.
That's it.
It is an unfair structure, but you're happy that at least it has a structure.
I'm happy. I'd be happy to be able to say that. And it's one of the problems with boxing. And one of the beauties of UFC is you do see the best fight the best because you're told who you're fighting.
That's
you
correct.
sign up to an agreement. You don't forget as well, Dan, you sign up to an agreement that enables you to be under that instruction to fight who you want. I would love to sit there in boxing and say, imagine how great the sport would be if you did sign, a universal contract that basically enabled the money is set and you have to fight whoever's put in front of you. Right, so you get to a stage where Terence Crawford says, right, you're fighting Errol Spence. Okay, done. Javonte Davis, you're fighting Ryan Garcia. Great. Tyson Fury, you're fighting Deontay Wilder. Wow, we'd have that every week. But unfortunately, we gave up, and definitely rightfully so, we gave up that ability a long time ago. And now I have no problem in saying, which a lot of old school promoters do have a problem saying, every fighter that I represent is my boss, right? I work for the fighter. And notoriously, that's never how it's been. The fighter works for the promoter. That went years ago. And we started giving the fighters ownership of the revenue, which is fair because they're the entertainers. If you're a singer, if you're a rock band and you're going out and you're filling stadiums, right? They're all there to watch you. You can't have the music manager taking 80% of the pot of the revenue. They are the stars, and especially in a sport which is very dangerous, they need to make sure that they, and as a business, we're fine with that split in revenue. We do very well, thank you. We don't need 80% of the revenue. But that's how you get longevity and relationships with clients. People like Anthony Joshua, people like Canelo Alvarez, they know when they work with us, they see everything, and they love that model.
I just can't believe that you've been in the boxing game this long. And when you talk about the business of boxing, you're interested and curious and you kind of love it and kind of hate it. But when he asks you about darts, you're saying that's the most pure of joys. That in sport, it's not two men barbarically beating each up in a ring. It's darts is where you will find me smiling and pure.
But Dan, isn't sport, right? Sport is supposed to put a smile on your face. When you start playing any sport, that feeling that it gives you, it has to be about the glory. And the problem with professional sport is as you get deeper, it becomes more about the politics and more about the money, which is fine. That's business. But what I'm saying is darts, although these guys are making a lot of money, it's still the purity of victory. It's still the moment of legacy. And that's, as a sports fan, that's what we live for every day. And it just becomes frustrating where money and politics stand in the way of legacy and achievement. And that's why darts puts a smile on my face, because these guys are out there achieving, wanting to win championships, and they're very happy with what they're being paid, which is fantastic for them. And boxing, unfortunately, sometimes the glory in boxing, there's nothing like it. I went to the other night, the New York Knicks against the Lakers, right? Went out there. I thought back to Amanda Serrano against Katie Taylor at Madison Square Garden. The atmosphere for that fight was 100 times better than the Knicks versus the Lakers, right? That's why boxing can be the greatest spectacle in the world. But Knicks. My God, it frustrates the life out of me.
It's the Knicks, Amin says.
If you love the darts, stand up. If you love the darts, stand up.
Yes.
If you love the darts, stand up.
He's doing I don't understand.
Guys, you are coming to Madison Square Garden.
Hell yeah, I'm there.
To watch the darts. All on me. You would have the best night of your life.
Eddie, I've been twice to the World Darts Championship at the Alley Pally. I can wholeheartedly 100% endorse everything you said about the darts. I'm glad the Michael Van Gerwen, Michael Smith 9-dart dueling legs went viral, because this is a sport that America can get behind. It is me drinking straight from a pitcher for 3 straight hours.
Okay,
it is
no
the
one
most
wants
fun
you.
that I've
No
ever
one
been
wants
to a
to hear
sporting
you
event.
bragging about your dart bona fides. The
But a few days.
man. Are you not seeing how many people are in this room that you're saying all on me, Madison Square Garden?
No, it's just the two Chris's.
No,
just us two.
no,
Yeah.
No, I'm going.
No,
I'm going.
No, it's just the two. We're the only ones just
I
stood
mean,
up.
I'll
Love
take a free
MSG.
trip.
We
Yeah,
like
sure.
darts.
Yeah,
Stood up.
let's
I
go.
love darts.
Yeah.
I'm a dartsman.
All expenses paid.
I just saw Billy come in on his day off. He just ran into the studio. Eddie, thank you for being on with us, sir.
No worries, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Eddie.